I recognized my talent as a gift. And that's probably when I did, and that's probably what saved me.
At 79, Eric Clapton has finally opened up about his complex relationship with fellow rock legend Jimmy Page, a bond that has intrigued fans for decades. Once close friends, their relationship has been marked by both camaraderie and tension, and Clapton's candid revelations in a recent video shed light on this intriguing dynamic. Before delving into these insights, let's explore Clapton's own storied life. Early life and music career of Eric Clapton. Born on March 30, 1945 in Ripley, Surrey, England, Eric Clapton has long been celebrated as one of the greatest guitarists in rock history. He was brought up by Patricia Molly Clapton, a 16-year-old mother single, and Edward Walter Fryer, a 24-year-old Canadian soldier who was posted in the United Kingdom at the time of World War II. Fryer left for Canada shortly after Clapton's birth, and Patricia raised him with the help of her parents, Jack and Rose Clapp, who became his de facto parents. This arrangement led to Clapton believing that his grandparents were his parents and that his mother was his older sister, a revelation that came as a profound shock at age 9 when his biological mother and half-brother visited. This discovery had a lasting emotional impact, leading Clapton to feel isolated and withdrawn, which affected his academic performance and contributed to his failure of the critical 11+ exams that would have shaped his secondary school future. Despite those early difficulties, Clapton's early life was spent in a musical-rich background. His grandmother played piano and his family enjoyed big band music, which fueled his passion for music. Clapton later learned that his biological father had been musically inclined as well, playing in dance bands during his time in England. At 13, Clapton received a guitar for his birthday, but the difficulty of playing it initially frustrated him. After putting it aside for a while, he returned to it with renewed determination, marking the beginning of a lifelong musical journey. By 16, Clapton had entered Kingston College of Art but found it academically frustrating, and instead devoted most of his time to the guitar and to listening increasingly to American blues. His commitment to music eventually led to his expulsion after just 1 year due to poor academic performance. Clapton began to immerse himself in the live music scene in London during the early 1960s. He joined his first band, the Roosters, at 17, and soon moved on to Casey Jones and the Engineers. His big break came in late 1963 when he joined the Yardbirds, a blues-influenced rock band where his guitar skills garnered significant attention. His time at the Yardbirds, which spanned from the 1960s to 1965, gave him the alias Slow Hand and established his position in the R&B elite as one of the greatest guitarists around. Yet despite this success, Clapton's dissatisfaction with the band's musical direction would eventually lead to his departure. So what exactly led to this departure? Keep watching to find out. Following Eric Clapton's departure from the Yardbirds in 1965, Eric Clapton moved to John Mayall the Bluesbreakers 1965, also an important stage in which Eric Clapton moved into live blues music deeply and definitively marked him as one of the most important guitarists of this music. His work with the Bluesbreakers culminated in the release of the iconic Bluesbreakers with Eric Clapton, an album that showcased his wonderful style and earned him the nickname God, famously graffitied across London. This era of musical exploration laid the foundation for his future ventures and set the stage for his evolving relationships, including his complex dynamic with fellow guitar legend Jimmy Page. In 1966, Clapton teamed up with bassist Jack Bruce and drummer Ginger Baker to become Cream, one of the first of the influential supergroups in rock. Fusing blues, rock, and psychedelia, Cream produced groundbreaking albums like Fresh Cream, Disraeli Gears, and Wheels of Fire, with hits like Sunshine of Your Love and White Room cementing Clapton's status as a premier guitarist. Despite their immense success, mounting tensions led to the band's dissolution in 1968, after just 2 years together. After Cream disbanded, Clapton formed Blind Faith with Steve Winwood, Ginger Baker, and Rick Grech in 1969. Although initially successful, Blind Faith disbanded shortly after a challenging American tour and creative differences. Clapton went on to work with Duane Allman on Derek and the Dominoes, and produced the critically lauded Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs in 1970, of which the title track has become one of his most popular songs. By 1970, Clapton embarked on a solo career, but his journey was marked by struggles with addiction, which impacted his career. Having been away for a while, he staged a remarkable comeback in 1974 with 461 Ocean Boulevard, which included his smash cover of Bob Marley's I Shot the Sheriff. This album marked a shift to a more mainstream sound while staying true to his blues roots. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Clapton managed to stay in a position, releasing successful albums such as Slow Hand, which featured the hit Lay Down Sally. His adaptability kept him at the forefront of an evolving music scene, and his 1985 performance at Live Aid introduced him to a new generation of fans. The 1990s brought another peak in Clapton's career. His 1992 Unplugged album, containing a non-electric version of Tears in Heaven, composed as a tribute to his son Connor, won 6 Grammy Awards and is one of the best-selling live albums in the world. He continued to pay homage to his traditional blues influences on From the Cradle, 1994, and also worked with B.B. King on Riding with the King, 2000, showcasing his stylistic versatility. Clapton has continued to be productive throughout the 21st century, producing albums including Pilgrim, 1998, and I Still Do, 2016, contributing to film scores and working with other performers. Highly praised not only for his technical skills but also for the expressive richness of his music, especially with more than 100 million records sold. As the only artist inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 3 times, as a member of the Yardbirds, Cream, and as a solo artist, Clapton's legacy is both profound and enduring. Eric Clapton's career represents a remarkable trajectory through musical history, characterized by innovation, tenacity, and a constant pursuit of the art. Jimmy Page's early life and music career. Now, turning to Jimmy Page, born on January 9, 1944 in Heston, West London, he is known as one of the most important guitarists in rock music history. Page was the son of James Patrick Page, an employee at a plastic coatings factory, and of Patricia Elizabeth Gaffigan, an Irish-born secretary. The family also moved several times, first living in Feltham in 1952 and then in Epsom in Surrey. Page attended Epsom County Pound Lane Primary School and later Ewell County Secondary School. During this time, he encountered his first guitar, a Spanish model left behind in the family home, and began teaching himself to play around age 12, initially taking a few lessons but mostly learning by ear from records. Page's early musical influences spanned rockabilly guitarists like Scotty Moore and James Burton, as well as blues legends such as Elmore James and B.B. King. Listening to Elvis Presley's Baby Let's Play House made him want to commit to his guitar work. He often brought his guitar to school, practicing for hours daily, despite teachers regularly confiscating it until the end of each day. At 13, Page made his debut performance on the BBC show All Your Own, playing skiffle in a group. At the age of 15, he had already been involved in several bands, including Malcolm Austin and the Whirlwinds, in which he covered Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis. This early experience helped Page develop his stage presence and refine his musical skills. Initially considering a career in biological research, Page ultimately prioritized music after earning 4 GCE O-levels. At age 15, he left Daintree Secondary School to pursue music full-time, following a disagreement with school authorities over his ambitions. In the early 1960s, Page acquired good training while touring with Neil Christian and the Crusaders. However, his career was temporarily derailed when he contracted glandular fever, forcing him off the road to recover. He went on hiatus, and at the same time, he began to study painting and design at Sutton Art College in Surrey, a time he described as very significant. Concentrated on art, he kept up a career in blues music in London, side by side with his vocation in visual arts. By the mid-1960s, Jimmy Page had become a highly sought-after session musician, collaborating with artists like The Kinks, The Who, and Marianne Faithfull. His notable contributions included rhythm guitar on The Who's debut single I Can't Explain, and acoustic guitar for tracks on the Kinks' debut album such as I'm a Lover, Not a Fighter. Page's skill and versatility in the studio led him to work with a range of prominent musicians. He made hits, such as Joe Cocker's With a Little Help from My Friends, and he worked on hit singles for artists such as Petula Clark and Donovan. Known for his adaptability, Page was often brought in as an insurance guitarist to ensure that recordings met the studio's high standards. As his reputation grew, Page sought to create a band that would allow him full artistic freedom. He recruited drummer John Bonham, bassist and keyboardist John Paul Jones, and vocalist Robert Plant. Initially performing as the new Yardbirds, the group soon adopted the name Led Zeppelin, allegedly suggested by The Who's drummer Keith Moon. Led Zeppelin's debut album, released in 1969, blended blues rock with folk influences and included now classic tracks like Good Times, Bad Times and Dazed and Confused, highlighting Page's innovative guitar riffs and production skills. The post-album tours, Led Zeppelin II, Led Zeppelin III, Led Zeppelin IV, and Houses of the Holy, not only cemented the band's position as rock immortals, but also paved the way for Led Zeppelin's legendary status and popularity. Songs like Whole Lotta Love, Stairway to Heaven, and Kashmir became cultural anthems, showcasing Page's exceptional guitar work and songwriting abilities. Page was famous for the innovative application of alternate tunings, distortion, and effects for the construction of artistic sounds. His iconic Gibson Les Paul became a signature part of Led Zeppelin's sound, while his live performances captivated audiences with elaborate solos and improvisation. In addition to Led Zeppelin, Page took his experiences as a producer and applied them to recording artists, for example, Al Stewart on Love Chronicles, 1969. Since the tragic death of drummer John Bonham in 1980, Led Zeppelin broke apart, and Page stepped away from the spotlight. He returned in the mid-1980s with The Firm, a band he formed with Paul Rodgers, releasing The Firm, 1985, and Mean Business, 1986, which featured the hit Radioactive. In the 1990s, Page reunited with Robert Plant for projects such as No Quarter, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant Unleaded, 1994, where they reinterpreted classic Led Zeppelin songs with fresh musical arrangements. In the 2000s, Page continued to collaborate with various artists and, in 2007, participated in a Led Zeppelin reunion concert at London's O2 Arena, which was later released as the film Celebration Day in 2012. Throughout his career, Jimmy Page has remained a transformative figure in rock music. His work as a guitarist, producer, and songwriter has left an enduring impact on the music world, cementing his legacy as one of rock's most innovative musicians and an inspiration to countless artists across generations. His mastery of the guitar, coupled with his groundbreaking approaches to production and songwriting, has set new standards within the industry, making him not just a musician, but a true rock icon. Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page's relationship with Yardbirds. However, in the larger tapestry of rock history, Page's journey to becoming a legendary figure is deeply intertwined with his role in the Yardbirds, particularly during the pivotal period when Eric Clapton left the band. Clapton's departure marked a turning point, creating a major opportunity for other guitarists and setting the stage for Page's eventual involvement with the group. Now let's move into why he left. Eric Clapton left the Yardbirds in March 1965. Primarily because he wanted to focus on a more authentic blues sound, feeling that the band's direction was veering too far into pop music. Clapton had grown increasingly frustrated with the commercial pressures that came with being part of a successful band, especially after their hit song For Your Love. Clapton was dissatisfied with the pop-oriented direction of the track and chose not to perform it live, which contributed to his decision to leave the band. His exit opened the door for other guitarists to join, and Jimmy Page was one of the first musicians considered to fill his shoes. In late 1964, before Clapton had officially left, the Yardbirds management approached Page about temporarily filling in for Clapton while he was on holiday. Page declined the offer, as he felt loyal to Clapton, who was both a friend and a fellow guitarist. When Clapton left for good in 1965, Page was again invited to join the Yardbirds. Despite his evident talent and compatibility with the band's style, Page once again turned down the offer. At that time, Page was a highly successful session musician, regularly contributing to major recording projects and earning a comfortable income. Page had concerns about leaving his successful session musician career to tour with the Yardbirds, as it would be a significant change from his established income and lifestyle. Additionally, he was concerned about the strain that constant touring would place on his health. Instead of joining, Page recommended Jeff Beck, a guitarist he deeply respected, believing Beck would be a perfect fit for the role Clapton had vacated. By 1966, the dynamics within the Yardbirds shifted again when bassist Paul Samwell Smith left the group due to dissatisfaction with touring and internal conflicts. By this point, Page had grown increasingly restless in his session career, feeling unfulfilled and ready for a more immersive musical experience. Reflecting on this period, he later expressed his frustration with the studio environment, joking that he would have played any instrument just to escape the confines of session work. This dissatisfaction set the stage for his eventual involvement with the Yardbirds. After attending a Yardbirds concert where Samwell Smith's departure was announced, Page decided to step in, initially as a bassist. Eventually, he transitioned to lead guitar after Chris Drea moved to bass, allowing Page to fully showcase his skills. During his time with the Yardbirds, he contributed to tracks like Happenings 10 Years Time Ago, which highlighted his innovative guitar techniques. However, tensions within the band and conflicting musical ambitions led to the group's dissolution in 1968. Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton's association. Even before joining the Yardbirds, Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton had established connections through London's thriving blues scene, a network of musicians that fostered collaboration and innovation. In 1965, the two guitarists worked together on an instrumental track titled Miles Road, which was included in the compilation album Blues Anytime Vol. 3. This track featured Clapton on lead guitar and Page on rhythm guitar, offering an early glimpse into the musical synergy they shared. They often jammed together in venues like London's Marquee Club, along with other iconic artists such as Jeff Beck and Eric Burdon, building mutual respect and friendship through their shared passion for the blues. Both Page and Clapton were integral to this collaborative network, where they regularly crossed paths and exchanged ideas. London's blues scene of the 1960s was a hotbed of creativity and experimentation, providing a unique environment for Page, Clapton, and their peers to hone their craft and push musical boundaries. However, their relationship, which was initially grounded in camaraderie, became strained as time went on. The rift between Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton. A key turning point in their relationship came with the involvement of Andrew Loog Oldham, a music manager known for his work with the Rolling Stones, and his role in founding Immediate Records. During Page's years as a session musician, he worked with Oldham on various projects for Immediate Records, producing tracks for multiple artists. Clapton, who was associated with Oldham through his work with John Mayall's Bluesbreakers, also interacted with Page during this period, and the two would often collaborate informally in jam sessions. In 1965, Page and Clapton recorded several informal jam sessions that explored traditional blues themes with innovative distortion effects. These recordings were initially intended to remain private. However, Oldham saw commercial potential in them. Using his influence as Page's producer, he pressured Page to hand over the tapes, citing contractual obligations that allowed him to do so. Despite Page's objections, he argued that the recordings were merely experimental variations on classic blues standards. Oldham moved forward with plans to release them. Adding to the controversy, Oldham overdubbed these tracks with contributions from members of the Rolling Stones, including Mick Jagger on harmonica, which altered the original recordings. Clapton was furious when he learned that these recordings were being released without his consent and felt betrayed by Page for not protecting their work from commercial manipulation. According to biographer George Case, this incident drove a wedge between the two guitarists and damaged their friendship, leaving Clapton with a lingering distrust of Page that would endure for years. Following this fallout, Clapton's anger toward Page was palpable. Although they occasionally performed together at benefit events over the years, the underlying tension from this episode remained unresolved. One notable example of their collaboration, despite the tension, was at the ARMS, Action into Research for Multiple Sclerosis charity concert in 1983. This event brought Page, Clapton, and other legendary musicians together for a noble cause, highlighting their shared history of both collaboration and rivalry. The ARMS charity concerts represented a milestone not only for their cause but for the rock world, as they marked the first time Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, and Jeff Beck, each of whom had served as lead guitarist for the Yardbirds, performed together on stage. This iconic gathering in London's Royal Albert Hall on September 20, 1983, aimed to raise funds for multiple sclerosis research and to support those affected by the disease, an effort spearheaded by Ronnie Lane of the Small Faces and Faces, who had recently been diagnosed with MS. For fans and musicians, the ARMS concert brought together three of rock's most influential guitarists, symbolizing both their individual achievements and their shared history. Clapton, Page, and Beck each performed iconic pieces from their careers. Clapton's set included songs like Lay Down Sally and Cocaine, while Page captivated the audience with instrumental renditions of Stairway to Heaven and City Sirens. Together, they shared lead duties on songs like Layla and Tulsa Time, creating a dynamic blend that showcased their distinct styles. Their electric chemistry was matched by an equally enthusiastic audience, which included Prince Charles and Lady Diana. Eric Clapton's revelations on Jimmy Page. Despite their collaboration on stage, lingering tension between Clapton and Page remained. Over the years, Clapton has openly acknowledged both admiration and rivalry with Page, admitting to mixed feelings about Page's innovative style and his success with Led Zeppelin. Clapton has hinted that he felt overshadowed by Page's achievements, revealing a competitive undertone in their relationship, common in the rock landscape where legacies are often compared. This rivalry extended beyond music to personal matters. Clapton had a brief affair with French model Charlotte Martin in 1967 while he was in Cream. Later, she entered a relationship with Page during his Zeppelin years, adding a personal layer of competition to their complex relationship. Eric Clapton's addiction. Eric Clapton's hiatus and struggles with addiction are integral to understanding both his personal and professional journey. As one of the most influential guitarists in rock history, Clapton's relationship with drugs began in the 1960s during his rise to fame with bands like the Yardbirds and Cream. The rock and roll lifestyle of that era, which often embraced substance use, contributed to Clapton's experimentation with various drugs. However, it was heroin that would become a dominant force in his life. By the late 1960s, Clapton had become deeply entrenched in heroin addiction, which he later described as consuming him entirely during his time with Cream. His addiction reportedly affected his live performances and behavior during certain periods of his career. Clapton has described his heroin addiction as financially overwhelming during the late 1960s. In an attempt to break free from heroin, Clapton replaced one addiction with another, alcohol. By the mid-1970s, alcohol had become a dominant part of his life, leading to heavy drinking that affected his performance. There were instances where Clapton would perform while lying down on stage, clearly intoxicated. His reliance on alcohol, combined with occasional cocaine use, led to a destructive cycle of addiction that persisted for years, deeply impacting his personal and professional life. Clapton's addiction was further compounded by personal tragedies, with the death of his 4-year-old son Connor in 1991 being a pivotal moment. Connor's tragic death, which resulted from a fall from a New York apartment window, sent Clapton into profound grief. This loss also became a catalyst for change in Clapton's life. He realized that to be present for his loved ones and overcome his addiction, he needed to make a lasting change. Clapton poured his sorrow into the song Tears in Heaven, a heartfelt tribute to his son that also reflects his commitment to sobriety. Clapton's first attempt at recovery came in 1982 when he entered a treatment facility in Minnesota for alcoholism. However, the treatment was unsuccessful and Clapton relapsed shortly after. It wasn't until 1987 that he sought treatment again, this time with a clearer understanding of his addiction. During this second attempt at rehab, Clapton was fully aware of his struggles and the necessity of addressing them. He later admitted that his previous attempts to control his drinking had failed, but this time, he was ready to face his issues head-on. By the time Clapton reached sobriety, he had already experienced the immense toll that addiction had taken on his physical and emotional health. The song Tears in Heaven became a symbolic marker of his commitment to recovery and his desire to honor the memory of Connor. It also reflected his realization that addiction, though it had fueled his creativity during his early career, had ultimately hindered his ability to produce music authentically and sustainably. In 1998, Clapton took his experience with addiction and recovery to the next level by founding the Crossroads Center in Antigua, a rehabilitation facility designed to help those struggling with substance abuse. Clapton's personal journey of recovery motivated him to give back to the community, and the center became a key part of his efforts to support others facing similar battles. Clapton has since remained sober for over 30 years, becoming a beacon of hope for others grappling with similar challenges. His journey embodies redemption and resilience, and he uses his platform to promote mental health and addiction awareness. Clapton's experience serves not only as a cautionary tale about the perils of addiction, but also as an inspiring narrative of how someone can overcome tremendous adversity, channel it into art, and emerge stronger. Death of Eric Clapton's friend. However, the challenges in Clapton's life didn't end with his personal battle against addiction. On August 27, 1990, the music world was shaken by the tragic death of Clapton's close friend and fellow guitarist, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Known for his powerful style and emotionally charged performances, Vaughan was a towering figure in blues music, influencing countless musicians and audiences. His life was cut short at just 35 years old, a tragedy that devastated his friends, family, and fans worldwide. For Clapton, the loss was particularly painful, marking a period filled with intense grief that compounded his ongoing struggles. On the night of Vaughan's passing, he had just given an exhilarating performance at the Alpine Valley Music Theater in East Troy, Wisconsin, where he had opened for Clapton. Following the show, Vaughan boarded a Bell 206B Jet Ranger helicopter alongside Clapton's booking agent Bobby Brooks, bodyguard Nigel Brown, assistant tour manager Colin Smythe, and pilot Jeff Brown. Despite challenging conditions with fog and darkness, the helicopter took off shortly after 1 a.m. Tragically, just moments after takeoff, the helicopter crashed into the side of a nearby ski hill less than a mile from the venue, killing all 5 passengers instantly. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, later determined that the primary cause of the accident was pilot error. The investigation revealed that Brown, the pilot, did not maintain adequate altitude in low visibility conditions, leading to the collision. Additionally, Brown was not certified with an instrument rating for helicopter flights under such circumstances, which added to the tragic missteps that resulted in this devastating accident. The NTSB investigation found no evidence of drug or alcohol use among those on board, ruling out any substance-related factors in the crash, and instead emphasizing the pilot's inadequate training and the difficult weather conditions. News of Vaughan's death sent shockwaves through the music industry and beyond. Clapton, who had developed a close friendship with Vaughan over the years, was profoundly impacted. Alongside Vaughan's brother Jimmy, Clapton went to the morgue to identify the bodies, an experience that deepened his sorrow. This loss came just before another tragic event in Clapton's life, the death of his young son Connor in 1991. The grief from these successive tragedies forced Clapton into a period of deep introspection, prompting him to reflect on life, friendship, and mortality. In interviews following Vaughan's death, Clapton openly shared his admiration for Vaughan's immense talent and the sorrow of losing a friend he had only begun to collaborate with creatively. He described Vaughan as one of the greatest guitarists he had ever known, lamenting the lost potential of their friendship and musical synergy. Vaughan's death reverberated through Clapton's work for years to come, with themes of loss and longing becoming more pronounced in his music. Clapton channeled his grief into his songwriting, using his craft as a means of processing his emotions and honoring his friend's memory. Stevie Ray Vaughan's influence on the music world endures far beyond his passing, and his contributions continue to shape and inspire new generations of artists. Renowned for his intense emotion, technical prowess, and groundbreaking performances, Vaughan played a crucial role in reviving interest in blues music during the 1980s. His style blended soulful expression with unparalleled guitar skill, captivating audiences and inspiring countless musicians across genres. His passion and artistry helped re-establish the blues as a powerful force within popular music. In recognition of his indelible impact, Vaughan was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997, solidifying his place among the legends of music. Memorials were erected to honor his legacy, including a notable statue in Austin, Texas, celebrating his significant contributions to the blues genre and his lasting influence. Vaughan's recordings and the tributes paid to him by fellow musicians have preserved his spirit, allowing his influence to endure. His legacy lives on, immortalized through his music, his fans, and the artists who draw inspiration from his work, ensuring that Stevie Ray Vaughan's contributions to blues and rock will continue to resonate for generations to come. What are your thoughts on Eric Clapton's revelations about Jimmy Page? Share your opinions in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on music legends.